Hey guys, this is Lucas from Holding Absence, and you are listening to Interview Under Fire.
All right, hey there everyone, and welcome back to a brand new edition of Interview Under Fire. This is your beloved host here in Sunny as always, and today I would like to welcome an extremely talented human being in Lucas Woodland. Been looking forward to this one. Lucas, brother, it's an honor. Thank you so much for joining our IUF series today. Man, oh man, I mean, we are for sure syncing up on an important and exciting time of the year for you and the rest of the guys over at Holding Absence with the release of our newest album, The Noble Art of Self-Destruction. I can't stop saying that, just that title. It drops August 25th on Sharptone. First off, congrats, man, because you guys have been picking up crazy momentum as of late. The reception has been very well received and welcomed. Those amazing singles that dropped, False Dawn, A Crooked Melody, Honeymoon, a lot to unpack about this album, including everything that you're about. Before we get to all that, right? I don't think I asked you this yet. I do this to all my guests. Like I forget. How are you? officially midway through 2023, if I'm not mistaken. You performed at some big festivals already this year, man. You got this album lined up. Exciting times. Like, let's exhale. Are you getting a chance to just take this all in at the moment?
Yeah, dude. I got to be honest. We had the most intense start to the year. So actually, not only do you find me halfway through the year, but you find me halfway through my 3 months off, where I get to spend time with my family and I get to spend time with my girlfriend and just be a normal human. So honestly, the energy is really good on my end at the moment. Like you said, the new album is out soon or now, depending on when this interview comes out. And it's always a very interesting kind of experience writing, recording, and releasing a record because it's like a time capsule of who you are for 2 whole years of your life, and then you kind of you lock it and you throw it out to sea, and you just hope that people enjoy it, So yeah, very excited, a little bit nervous, but everything is good on our end at the moment.
I think it's okay to be nervous. That just means you have a lot of, shows dedication to your craft. And something I want to mention, that you guys are from Wales. You've been at this for 8 years, if my math is correct, and have since released 2 great full-length records for as long as I've been listening to you guys. You threw an EP in there. And for our listeners, maybe even your fans who may not know, Lucas, the formation of Holding Absence, right, alongside your bandmates, do you ever look, I don't know, are you someone who looks back on like the early days when this all began? I know we're talking about a new album, but doing this for 8 years and for as long as it maybe you have, it's not an easy thing to do, yet here you are. How often do you look back on those early days, or do you not do that? You just, you know what, forge ahead.
No, I think it is so important to remember the beginning of things, and like, if not for nostalgia, but for context, if I don't look back and go like, wow, I missed that or whatever, I look back and I go, wow, look how far we've come, so that's something that I'm always aware of. I'm always trying to tap into the spirit of this band from day one. There were periods of time where we would just accept any show that we got offered. We would play anywhere, we would do anything. And I think, that kind of ethos and mentality is what got us to where we are today. And it's something that we try and recycle a little bit within our psyche as well, trying to always just remember that this is fun, this is passionate, this is not a job, this is a beautiful dream that we've been afforded. And like, how would, the expression, like, how would 10-year-old you, what would 10-year-old you think?
I think about that a lot. I'm too nostalgic, but I think about that a lot. My brother's in town from Oklahoma, and we get to hang out maybe once or twice a year. And we always talk about, man, remember, I don't know, 2002, like, something like that. Or maybe even we always think about what we did that year or something like that. It's always crazy to think about.
I think it's an important thing, to be honest, as a person and as a professional, almost like respecting who you have always been at your core. You know what I mean? Like trying not to stray too far from what you are as a person, and like you said, whether that's reminiscing with old friends or trying to remember beliefs you held at the beginning of everything or whatever, it's like the really important thing. But just to kind of get back to your original question, this band started in, I think, 2016 was when I joined.
Right. Okay.
And in the meantime, Scott, our guitarist, has joined, and Ben, our bassist, has joined. But the interesting thing about this band is that myself, Ben, and Scott started a band in 2010 when we were 16 years of age. So weirdly, this band has become the same band that I started 13 years ago, you know? So it's become a funny kind of journey for us, myself and Ash especially, because, you know, we've been there since day one, really. But it's nice because these are people that I grew up with, you know, people that I played my first shows with, even though it might not actually look like that on paper. You know, that is the fact. And it's so cool because once again, just to finally kind of hit that, I guess, that idea home, you know, when I look
Yeah.
on stage at the boys around me, I'm like, these are my buddies, you know what I mean? These aren't my colleagues, these are my friends. And I've been doing this with them for over 10 years now. And that's such an honor, you know?
And you know, one of the things that makes Holding Absence, you know, is also you talk about being on stage, the live presence that you guys exhibit on stage. This is a topic I'll never stop talking about, Lucas, because you guys have been making the rounds lately. You performed with some of, you know, bands who've already been on our show, like The Plot and You, Thornhill, Banks Arcade, the Amity Affliction. They just dropped a new album. If you haven't listen to that as well. You performed at Slam Dunk Festival, the 2000 Trees Festival.
Yeah.
You got that. And I mentioned you coming to Dallas in 2 months. That Census Fail tour with 1,000 Below, and shout out to 1,000 Below. They were on our show as
Yeah,
well.
dude.
And
Yeah, nice.
James DeBerg, amazing guy. And I don't know if you met that guy or met those guys over at 1,000 Below.
I'm very good friends with them on the internet, but
bro,
I can't wait to meet them.
You are going to be like in great hands on this tour. I mean, I can't wait to see what your expression is after you guys get done with that. But considering how much touring is going on, right? I wonder what is it about live music, Lucas, that really brings out the best in you. I have yet to see you live, which I'm counting down the days, you know, but I have been following you guys for a while. I feel like out of anything you've done in your life, Lucas, like this is where you are in your element. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? How do you see that?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think being a musician is such a special thing because it is kind of your job to do the two most opposite things in the world. You know, to get on stage and exert, you know, like your physical, basically, just like in whatever, almost as if you're an athlete, and then to go home and to sit there pensively, you know, writing lyrics or writing music or whatever. You know, there's such a duality to it, but yeah, I can't help but feel like the touring aspect of this band is just given my life such purpose. You know, we've played 75 shows so far this year, which is, you know,
That's
or
nuts.
even then we stopped touring last month. You know, I've been home for 6 weeks, so you know, pretty much in 5 months we did that many shows, and then last year we did 98 shows, and like, you know, since the pandemic we played nearly 250 shows, and like it's crazy, but it's like it's where I think we most feel alive as people and as musicians, but B is where I think our band thrives the most. Like, if you don't get Holding Absence, like, I urge you to come to a show, because that is, our band is all about connection, essentially, and there's no better way than at connecting than to do it in the same room, you know, when your arms reach from a person, I guess, you know.
I can't help but ask, Lucas, is it easy or maybe difficult to turn it off when you're home? You know, because you're in that mode on the road. It's crazy because my brothers were the same way when they're not touring as much as they used to, but they're both drummers, like I said, they're musicians. But how difficult is it when you come home and it's like, okay, I'm not in touring mode anymore. I don't have to exert all this energy because you're going to be back on the road and before you know it, after, you know, we get done here. So for someone like you, like I said, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but for doing something for as long as you have, you know, and even you can even think about other bands like Iron Maiden, Metallica, who've been doing it their entire lives. Where do you draw the line between, okay, stage Lucas as opposed to being at home Lucas, as maybe I'm seeing right now?
I honestly, very easy, actually, because I've got a very healthy relationship with the person I become on stage and the person I am off stage. I'm proud of who I am off stage, and I'm even prouder of who I am on stage, but I see a little bit less of him, you know what I mean? So it's a really nice kind of and I always refer to it as like Iron Man and Tony Stark, you know what I mean? It's like the stage version of me has so much more shiny kind of like, you know, things that, and it's more about showing off and, you know, and trying to, you know, reach heights and stuff like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, without Tony Stark, you know, it's just an empty suit, you know. And I think it's very important to respect both sides of the coin, really. The one thing though I do struggle with is just like every time I get back on tour, I think, can I still do this? You know, like because that is the weird thing is like I know question. I can, and I've done it for 4 months in a row in the past, you know. But it's like you don't know until you know. You know, you can't stage a performance. You just got to do the performance and find out, you know. So that is always a little bit scary.
Yeah, and the burnouts come at the very weird, like you feel it, like you don't really know when it hits you, but it just hits you like a truck. It's funny, I don't think I've ever actually mentioned this on this show. I've had maybe over like 300 interviews on here, but you mentioned Iron Man and Tony Stark. Is it weird that as you're talking to me right now, Lucas, this is actually me in Batman form? I'm not Bruce Wayne yet, you know?
So yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, it's like the performer and the person, you know, and having that kind of duality.
Don't worry, I'm sort of like, I'm pretty much like this when you'll meet me in person, so nothing to worry about there. Now, you know, aside from the music, I'm always intrigued to hear about other aspects of an artist's life that potentially feed into their creativity and personality. Lucas, your love for anime, tell me more about that. How did you get pulled into this world, and what are some of your favorite current animes? Because one of my really best friends, shout out to Tony, he introduced me to a lot of anime. I think I still have Ouran High School that's like sitting on the the Blu-ray. Anyway, but I'm not exposed to as much as you are. But tell me how much you love it, because I know you're a big fan of this entire world. You look like an anime character as I'm looking at you right now.
Thanks, man. That's the goal. No, so like anime is a funny one for me, to be honest, because I grew up. So it's interesting because touring America has given me like a far different worldly kind of view. Like, you know, it's like I thought I knew everything about America because I watched Disney Channel growing up, and then I go out to America and I find things out there that blow my mind. And one of them was how exposed to anime you guys were growing up. And in the UK, it really wasn't like that. You know, we had Pokemon and we had Beyblade and we had Metabots, and those are like Pokemon's goated, but like those are like C tier or D tier anime, you know.
Hey, so I still have my really Pokemon cards. Okay, let me just throw that out there.
Same, hey, bro.
Seriously, I have a book of like holographic Alakazam, Blastoise, everything. I can go down. That's a whole different discussion. That's like we'll Wings. That's a Wings interview. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But I will say though, I went through my Pokemon card collection recently, and I found 3 gold star cards, and
holy mother,
I can't. But dude, I've got a black Charizard in there that's worth.
No way.
Like,
so
okay.
I know. We have a staff member on IUF. His name is Corey. If he found out you had this, he's gonna like DM you like, oh my god, can I see this? Well, what does this look like? Because he's a huge avid collector of Pokemon cards. He got me back into it. I still have mine, like I said. Anyway, I don't mean to cut you off, but Black Charizard, what the hell?
Love it. Yeah, but yeah. So with anime though, yeah. So I kind of, you know, Beyblade and Metabots were my favorites when I was younger, and it's not really aged very well because they weren't really anything other than adverts for toys, really. You know. Mm-hmm. But now I've grown up and like I've always loved character arcs, and I've always loved, you know, I guess I've always loved kind of everything about anime, but I never had exposure to it, you know. And then pretty much during the pandemic, I just like I started watching Studio Ghibli, and then I kind of, you know, I think I watched One Punch Man, and then I started watching Academia, Attack on Titan, and like so I've been falling into. But the other thing that is important to note is that like I grew up reading comics as well, like Western comics. Like, you know, from the age of 8, my dad bought me an Avengers comic, and that was my second biggest passion to music for the rest of my life. So with anime, it's funny because it's like obviously manga is so essential to anime. So it's cool for me because like I read a lot of manga, I watch a lot of anime, and it's become like a part of my life in the last few years. Despite always loving comics and always loving the anime I grew up watching, now I'm like in it, you know what I mean? And I'm like eating as much as I can and just trying to find new stuff always, you know.
Are you bringing this comics with you on the road while you're touring?
I always buy comics on the road. My first
Okay.
thing when I get to a venue is I will Google. I'm vegan, so I go on Happy Cow, the app, and I find the nearest vegan food spot, and then I'll Google comic book shops, and I'll go to the nearest one. So I'm always as close to a manga as I can get, really. So yeah.
So okay, so I love that you say you're vegan. A lot of my friends are telling me I should go vegan too because I really should. But there is this vegan taco place. Like I said, I don't know where the venue is gonna be. You're gonna be here in Dallas. It's called Tiki Taco. I think that's the name.
Okay.
They have some amazing vegan tacos. But I'll keep you posted on where exactly
Cool.
that's located. But it should be close to where the venue is. But bro, like we can stay on the subject of anime for as long as we want. We talked about everything except the music. Let's get to the noble self-destruction, okay?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I'm quoting you or I'm quoting somebody in the band here. A puzzle, a painting, a work of art in the making. Holy hell. This album, okay? If you have a drink, please finish it because I got a lot to say. This was breathtakingly epic. It was a great follow-up to 2021's greatest mistake of my life, excuse me. And it serves as the third act in this trilogy of albums. We'll get to that later. This is coming from a Star Wars fan when I think about trilogies and things like that, you know?
Yeah.
So, Lucas, the result of your first two records, right? You have amassed, I'm gonna throw some numbers at you if you don't mind. You have amassed over 30 million monthly listeners on Spotify alone and counting. Overall, no. Yeah, overall,
No.
30 million listeners.
Yep.
That's what's crazy. And at the same time, outlets like Kerrang and Loudwire, Rock Sound, Alternative Press, praising your work in that process. When you hear numbers and recognition like that, right? Especially with it being this early in your career, tell me, man, is there a level of pressure at all for you and the guys when you sit down and write new music again? Or do you just drown all that noise, you know, because you got over the debut, you got over the sophomore slump that we hear a lot,
Yeah.
you know? And now here at their album, like, do you feel more comfortable? Do you feel like, okay, now I really got to step it up? What goes on in the head of yours? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, man. The answer, no, but you're right. The answer is a lot of things going in my head because I think I overthink, and then I think actually just do the first thing you think, underthink. You know what I mean? And like it's almost like everything you do.
You're describing my thought process with everything I do.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right, man. Because it is a lot of pressure, And like one thing I will say though is like you said, So for example, we've got a song called Afterlife, and it's on like I think it's nearly on like 35 million streams, which is just a joke. It's more than most songs I grew up listening to, which is insane. But like a big part of our band is not just the replayability or the catchy choruses or whatever, but it's the human connection. It's like I really value that our band is a band that speaks to people and stays with people. Like the goal for us is to write music that is incredibly digestible to the everyman and then incredibly relatable to whoever fancies digging a little bit deeper, So we've always got to think, yes, this is catchy, yes, this is cool, whatever, but does it connect? Does it make you feel things, And I think Afterlife, back to that song, it's like I'm really proud of that one because it is I can't believe how much of a commercial smash it is, to be honest. But it is a song about grief, and it is a song about, having somebody watching over you all your life, essentially, and feeling like your loved ones are still with you even when they're not. And for me, it's like, 1 million of those streams might be the people coming back grief, and then 34 million might be because they think it's a good chorus. But I think that 1 million is so important, and I think that's kind of our greatest strength as a band is, we will make sure that ultimately, amongst all this craziness and all the pressure and everything, we just want to make sure that we can write music that you can enjoy, but you can connect to as well. And I think we did a good job of it. This new record, I'm really proud of it. So
man, I gotta applaud you and your bandmates because each of you went above and beyond on this. Hearing this album, it was melodic, it was emotional, it was ambient. Can I even say that? There were heavy sections mixed with an impressive range of, I don't know, like pop, post-hardcore. Even there were ballads in there. It reminded me of, it's like a mix in between the Plot New, Tesseract, Movements, Polaris. you know, from songs like Head Prison Blues to Scissors to Death Nonetheless to The Angel in the Marble. That song, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking about that.
Oh, thank you,
I
man.
broke the replay button on that song. That may be my favorite song. It's between that or Scissors. I can't decide. It'll probably change tomorrow. But dude,
Cool.
I made sure my neighbors heard this album too,
Yeah.
because my window stereo is right there. I know they will too. But you know, and something I want to get into as I'm mentioning this was also a testament to this album was also a testament to how your life story is never fully told, right? With opportunities for change and growth that's found in every moment, you know? I wonder how much did things change from when you first started composing on this album, Lucas, to where you ended up finishing it? Did a lot change in between? Did nothing change, which is also okay? Like, did you already have a specific sound from day one of this album?
You know, I think, yeah, that's a great question
I've been
because
putting you on the spot.
yeah, no, you're good. That's the job, my dude. But yeah, I think, you know, I think the main change has happened since the last album, you know. And when I say that, I mean, you know, in the winter of 2019, me and Scott would meet up 3 or 4 days a week, and I would work at the local music shop, and he would work at a local coffee shop, and we would put these songs together, and then, you know, fast forward to the next album coming out, you know, we're full-time musicians, and like I said, we played, you know, 250 plus shows or whatever in the meantime, and we almost feel like different people since the band that stepped into the booth for The Greatest Mistake, you know.
Yeah.
So I think the most significant change was there, but at the same time, like the we had two mission statements for this album. The first one was all killer, no filler. We wanted to make sure that this was just 10 banging songs, and to a point where we short a song for a while, and we were willing to put out a 9-track album because I didn't want an interlude. Do you get what I mean? I
Yeah.
just wanted good music, and whether that was 9 songs or 10 songs, who cares? Like, that was the goal. And then the other one was for this album to feel like almost like a love letter to Holding Absence fans and to Holding Absence music. You know, it's like we wanted it to almost homage itself in a way, so that it didn't feel too striking or shocking, but at the same time, it still felt like this mature group of people that we've become in the meantime, you know? So yeah, it was a balancing act for sure. But I think, you know, I'm so glad. Thank you for saying that about The Angel in the Marble, because I think that song is the most poignant song I've ever written lyrically. And, you know, it's the last track on the album, and you always get scared people won't make it that far, you know? But I truly believe that song is quite indicative of the whole record, actually. So and I'm super proud of it. Yeah.
If I were to ever introduce anyone to my brother, for example, okay, we love the music. I introduced him to that song first.
Cool.
If I were to introduce anyone, again, we have a vast wide majority of fans who listen to Interview Under Fire worldwide. If you listen to Holding Absence, listen to The Angel in the Marble, because I think that encompasses everything that the band has shown. Like, it's the full package, you know? And then I recommend going back and starting with the self-titled and then working your way up. That's again, that's coming from a musician journalist standpoint. That's just my recommendation. Dude, I gotta ask now. I forgot to ask earlier. Gerard Way, I know that is a huge influence on you. You know, bro, I got to cover My Chemical Romance last year twice, actually. We got to cover them in Chicago at Riot Fest, and here in Dallas American Airlines Center.
Oh my god, insane.
Dude, bro, I felt like I was in high school again. Like, just, yeah. I grew up listening to that band, and My Chemical Romance was always in the backlit part of my high school days, and actually getting to see them and getting to cover them, and then seeing that how big of a band, how big that band has influenced someone like you. And I'm hearing the influences, you know. Cool. I wonder if there's a challenge between, like, as a vocalist, right? Where do you draw, like, how did you, like, make your, you know, your sound? This is Luke, because I can tell this is Lucas Woodland of Holding Absence as I'm listening to this album, you know. Did it just come naturally? Did you have to I don't know, the struggles of developing your voice, and especially in an industry where everyone's trying to like come out and develop a voice of their own, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man, you're right. I think I'm fortunate because I have just followed my I truly think like I've kind of followed my body really. Like
Mhm.
what does my voice excel at and what do I enjoy doing, and let's do more of that. So I think it's interesting because Gerard Way is like it's probably my favorite vocalist of all time, but I know I cannot replicate him because he's just too unique, and to that point, I
Yeah.
don't want to replicate him, but I just think, what did he do that I loved other than his voice, And he was, man, he was tender, but he was visceral, and he was a storyteller. He was a poet, and he was conceptual, and it was almost like all these things for me. I was like growing up, I remember just thinking like, this dude does so much more than just sing,
Yeah.
and that's what's inspired me the most from his work, I guess. But yeah, you're right. To your point though, I'm so grateful. I read somewhere on metalcore Reddit that like it was like who's got the most distinct voice in the
Mhm.
metalcore scene, and it was really lovely. Like someone commented my name and it was one of the top comments, and I just remember thinking like that's like the biggest compliment because that means that you are
Yeah.
you're good or whatever. I don't even need to be good, but some of the best vocalists of all time aren't good, but they are unapologetically themselves. And I think for a while I maybe struggled with who I was, if that makes sense. I knew I could sing or I knew how to sing, but I didn't know how to sing as myself. And I think now, after all these years, I'm I'm grateful that I'm kind of just I'm the performer and the vocalist that I am naturally now after all this time.
Yeah, and it seems like you have the legacy that Gerard Way left behind, right? It seems like it's impacting someone like you, and you're carrying it forward. Where I don't know, 3-4 years down there, even now, people will be like, "Man, I want to be able to sing like Lucas." That right there. When you see results like that, you're already seeing it, bro. Celebrate your successes along the way because they don't. It's it comes and goes. So, and you guys are doing it,
Yeah.
and now I don't shout out to Gerard Way. I'm gonna give a shout out real quick to Dan Weller because the sound itself was a big part of this record that I really love, Lucas. I'm an
Yeah.
audiophile these days. I'm very picky on
Mm.
how I want my music to sound. We mentioned Matt because he worked on Caskets,
Yeah. Yeah.
Buried to Bury Tomorrow, Enter Shikari. Now between writing and then structuring the songs and the production process, we're gonna end this interview on a very important topic that I wanted to get into. So I'm gonna mention 3 things to you, okay? Like as I'm
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because my mind's about to explode. Michelangelo, the Renaissance sculptor,
Yeah.
Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Star Wars. We mentioned Star Wars very briefly. By the way, I'm just gonna show this to you real quick, just because we're on the subject and we're hitting it off really well. So last month, I know I'm going off topic, but I think you will appreciate
No,
this.
you're good. You're good.
I met Hayden Christensen. That's me and my
Let's
brother.
go.
So
Let's
he
go.
so
That's
he was he
sick,
was
dude.
he was in Dallas last month.
That's
Anyway,
so dope.
I'm a
Yeah.
huge Star Wars fan, so if we want to go down that line, we can. But Michelangelo, Star Wars, and kintsugi, which is the Japanese pottery. That's the Japanese pottery of art. Why am I mentioning these? People are probably wondering, what the hell? These are very 3 random subjects. The lyricism throughout this album, right, Lucas? Because we talked about the first album, which is about love, the self-titled The Greatest Mistake of My Life. The second album was about loss, and then this album rounds out about the person that's left in the end of all that,
Yeah.
and the lessons they learned from their traumas. Thinking about all this, the tangibles of themes or messages to your music, Lucas, how important are themes to you? Is that a big component to songwriting for a band like Holding Absence? Because this is the third part of the trilogy. So I don't know if people basically know that yet.
Yeah, man, for sure. I think concepts are a huge part of what I do. I think as a lyricist, I almost view having a concept down as like drawing a pencil outline, it just
Yeah.
gives you some sort of guidance. You know what you're working with, and then you can be as expressive as you want, really, but you've always got some sort of true north to come back to. So yeah, with this album, um, first and foremost, the Star Wars thing is funny because it's not like I think that's on the press kit somewhere. But basically, the Star Wars thing was just a reference to the concept of writing a trilogy and looking at like like trying to find almost inspiration outside of our world and how to translate it into our world, and I basically just remember thinking like, this is sorry, new question, but The Empire Strikes Back is number 6, right?
That's five.
So is it A New Hope?
A New Hope is wait, you're talking about the trilogy of that?
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi, yeah. Return of the Jedi is 6.
Okay. Yeah. So this was our Return of the Jedi, and I remember thinking like, where are you at the end of number 5, and what have you got left to want to know? Do you get what I mean? Like what itches haven't been scratched, and and then similarly, how can we do that? Like what is our fan base wanting from us while we're kind of trying to complete this trilogy of albums, I guess, and that led us to write songs like Honeymoon. That led us to write songs like Scissors and Death Nonetheless, making sure that we'd covered angles that, we'd never covered before. And then ultimately with The Angel and the Marble, I mean, not to be too on the nose, but that is the scene where everybody gets their medals at the end of the 6th movie. You know what I mean? That's the celebration. And that is the conclusion. And I think for me, it was very much like, even though it's a stupid reference, it's like, it got me into the headspace of thinking, how am I going to close this off? And what reference can I take from what other places in the world, I guess, But the other points, the other 2 things you mentioned are far more tangible and essential to this process. But basically with this album, like you said, the first album was about love and the second album was about loss. And I thought to myself, what is left to say? And it's looking at the rubble and trying to identify yourself after all of this emotion, essentially trying to find out who you are after everything has happened, So that was kind of the idea of this album. And then, kintsugi, which is the Japanese art form of infusing glue with gold and mending things to be more valuable, that really stuck with me. And then the other thing was Michelangelo's David, because it was like, I drew a parallel between those 2 things. I realized that those 2 things have been made beautiful because they broke, And then I was like, well, the first 2 albums have been slowly me breaking down, essentially. And this third one is me looking at everything that's happened, trying to contextualize it, and almost trying to celebrate that I am who I am because of the things I've experienced and lived through in life, And then voila, the noble art of self-destruction, Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you need to experience hard things, but there is a beauty to that ultimately,
Man, that was so beautifully well put. You couldn't have answered that any well. What is this? This means we're going to get what? 6 more albums, right? Because there's 9 Star Wars.
I mean, honestly, I've always said I'd love to do 9 albums, regardless.
That's
of
so funny. I love that. I don't think I'll ever watch Star Wars the same way again. Next time I watch that, just watch any movie. I watch Star Wars just as far as like a daily thing now. I just keep it like random, like episode 2, like Attack of the Clones in the background, the Rise of Skywalker in the background.
What's your favorite?
Okay, I'm gonna count. Hey, here's what I'm gonna do. Okay, let's make it fun. I'm gonna count to 3. We're gonna both name our favorite episode. All right. This gonna be. I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, and we're both gonna name it. You ready? Let me know when you're ready. Think about this for a second. This is an important topic. All right.
It is. Okay.
You got it. You got it. All right. I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, and then we're both gonna name it. Okay. Ready?
Okay.
1. Yeah. Oh, I can't do this. It's too funny. 1, 2, 3. Return of the Jedi. Oh, okay. That's also a good one. Yeah. I love the Phantom Menace, actually. Yeah. The Phantom Menace.
That sweet nostalgia. I think for me, think about this, bro. I cannot believe don't get me wrong, he's not as iconic as Darth Vader, but Darth Maul is so iconic.
Bro, yes, I'm telling you, like when I was a kid when I watched that movie in theaters. I was so sad that they killed him off. I'm like, you mean he's gone? Bro, I brought his lightsaber and everything. Doublet. I was swinging around the house before my mom hit it for me, but dude, when I saw that movie, dude, Darth Maul, everybody wanted to be like Darth Maul. We've never seen a Star Wars character like that. Granted, I think he did make a comeback in like that Han Solo movie towards the end. A spoiler. I'm sorry if
I
everyone.
didn't know that. I didn't know that. Oh,
Oh, sorry. I'm
well, I
so
only got
sorry.
like halfway through. It's fine. No, I stopped watching it, to be honest.
Yeah, that was the one movie
but
that I didn't really care about that much because
yeah,
we knew
yeah.
the whole 12 parsecs and all that blah blah blah.
Hmm.
We knew Han's story, but yes, Maul does make a comeback at the end. So maybe now I gave you, I'm giving
The
you a
other
reason
thing
to...
I'd add about you're good, you're good. The other thing I'd add about Phantom Menace as well is I think Ewan McGregor is my Obi-Wan. Like whenever I think
Oh,
about Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's who I see, and I'm not sure if that's controversial or not. But
did
yeah,
you
that probably
see?
contributes to my.
Did you see the Obi-Wan Kenobi series?
Yeah, I really
Okay,
enjoyed it, dude.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps again. You can't see me, but did you? Okay, I teared up. I teared up at the end when Qui-Gon again. When Qui-Gon showed up, I'm spoiler alert. I'm already too late for that. But when Qui-Gon showed up at the end of the series, dude, like that, I've never cried like that before. I was like, oh my god, this was amazing. Like when it's to the point where it's not even Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon anymore. It's Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor to get like talking to
For
each
sure,
other.
for sure.
See,
Yeah,
I
I
felt
did.
like a kid again. So I don't know if you felt the same way, but man, Star Wars holds such a special place in my heart. So like I said, we can talk about that as long as you want. And I did meet Mark Hamill as well. So
No way!
bro, yeah, I
All
did.
right,
I met
sure.
Mark Hamill. Well, dude, just let's stay in touch on Instagram. You'll see all the photos. So I'll post all of them on there. But Hayden Christensen was such a nice guy. I'm so glad he's getting the recognition now
Yeah,
because he
yeah, he
got
deserves
such
it,
a
man.
bad
Yeah,
rap
because
after those
I
those
thought
two.
he was. I did think he was great in the first three. Like I feel like
Yeah,
his
he did.
cards were dealt for him. But I mean, I thought he was cool. You know what I mean? And I thought it was believable as
And
well.
he
So
deserves all the smoke right now, because
yeah,
people
yeah, yeah,
are,
yeah.
dude, the line that day to meet Hayden,
Mm,
it sold out in like
sick.
minutes. And luckily we were able to meet him. And it was again, that was just a bucket list moment for me, for my life,
Yeah,
just to meet Hayden. But anyway, man, Lucas, I know we've covered a good amount of ground on this awesome conversation, man. Thank you for sharing so much on who you are really and what Holding
thanks,
Absence
man.
is all about, representing Wales in the music sense, in the process, in the form of art that you guys are conveying, from the different experiences and perspectives in your timeline that we have talked about, right? And performing for as long as you have, and the people you have met and worked with during these three like really solid records. I feel like you found your sound with this record. You guys have finally arrived as a band. The
Thank
touring,
you.
your growing fan base, and the relationship with your bandmates, yourself, and the music. And I think we're entering an important chapter with Holding Absence here. I'm excited to see where you guys go from here. There's definitely a level of inspiration to what you're doing. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. You're seeing results. Let me round this out with the final question. Have your aspirations, right, Lucas, as a musician, or hell, as just a
Mm.
human being, have they changed or evolved since when you first started performing in the industry? Like, do you see things differently today?
I That's such a great question. Yeah, I do see things differently, but I don't feel any differently, if that makes sense. I'm still the person I was when I stepped into this world, and I'm still as in love with everything around me and as grateful for everything. And yeah, I might be different because I've lived through it all, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's what happens when you experience things in life, you change. But my mission statement, my goal, my purpose, like none of that has ever changed. And I think the main, I know you just mentioned, we're from Wales, so we're not even English. Like we're from the smallest country
Yeah,
in the
make sure
United
people know
Kingdom.
that.
Yeah, yeah, and like
There's that
I
misconception
th-
all the time. And you guys tied us in the World Cup, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
we did.
remember.
I think it was
Yeah, you
one
did.
all. Yeah, yeah. But like I think, it where we come from and the world that we kind of spawned out of, essentially, so very far away from all of the things that I am experiencing now. When I go to America and Australia and see all these insane cities and meet these, I would see millions of people around me and meet thousands of Holden Absence fans I never thought I'd get the chance to meet. And then I come home and I drive through my humble little country that I'm from, and the hills surround me and the population decreases, and it makes me all the more grateful, you know what I mean? So I hope I never lose that, because that's kind of what makes all of this so special. Almost is the duality. It
Yeah.
consistently reminds me of how far we've come. So yeah, very grateful.
Man, thank you for that. It's almost like it's like a peaceful moment, like when you're all the chaotic life of touring, coming back home and just going on this drive on the long road. Dude, I know how that feels, man. Like you feel so like almost emotional to the point. It's just you feel like so grateful for that moment. And those moments, it's not often that happens. So when it happens, take it all in. But Lucas, brother, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, man. Sorry I think I kept you over time, but
no, you're good.
Dude, I really appreciate you for just doing this with me, man. We the chemistry we had on this, it felt like it was very therapeutic.
You're
right?
A legend.
Matt from Casket said the same thing. So but let's stay in touch, like I said, on the socials, and I will keep you posted once this episode airs. Everyone who is listening worldwide, this is the amazing Lucas Woodland from Holding Absence. The Noble Art of Self-Destruction drops August 25th on Sharptone. Man, we got over a month since until that album comes out. I can't wait for people to hear this.
But it'll whiz by. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you could do me and Lucas a favor, buy the album, because the bands can't do it without your help. It goes a long way, and trust me, because it's great album art too. I mean, it's just a great thing to have the final piece, like the actual piece in your hand. I'm old fashioned, Lucas. I still buy records that's sitting in the corner of my room. Dude, so I still buy cassettes. I still buy cassettes. Bands come up with cassettes these days, so that's a journey too. But and everyone listening, don't forget you can listen to this podcast on all major podcast streams out there. Check us out on interviewunderfire.com. Much love, brother, man. Have a great rest of the month. Dude, enjoy this time, before you head out on the road, and have a safe tour with Senses Fail and 1,000 Below. I will see you down the line, man. I'm counting yeah. Hey, let's stay in touch, and I will see you guys. All right, it's gonna be great.
Legend.
All right, brother.
Have a lovely day. Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon.
Care of yourself.